I am here. It is Cosi Talks Live. We're running just a few minutes late this evening, so I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to jump on board and find me. So it is continuing. I think we're on week 2 now of Limb Loss Awareness Month. We've been seeing a lot of really good promotions on social media with the hashtag mobility is not a luxury. So hopefully you guys have been seeing that all over the place. It's really wonderful to see everybody's postings on this. Those of you who are watching the replay, go ahead and give me a shout out in the comment section. Let me know. Just you can put in replay into the comment section. You can put your question into the comment section. I always like to go back and see who was watching the replay. So, guys, don't be shy about giving me a shout out there. I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes. And in the meantime, I'm going to type in a couple of things for you guys here. All right. So I see some folks jumping on board. When you jump on board, let me know who you are, where you're from, and what is in your mug. I couldn't find my mug this evening, so I got my Star Wars glass drinking water here. We got Eric on board drinking his Powerade, and Eric is watching me from the YouTube channel. So, guys, as you know, I do stream to both my Facebook and my YouTube channel at the same time. Some folks find it a little easier to find me on YouTube under Cosi Talks. We got Harsh on board. Marianne sitting there with her electrolyte drink, and Harsh is from Richmond. We got Tom on board. There we go. We got Susan from Canada. There's 2 of my Canadians here, and she's drinking her water. All right. Yes. Awesome, guys. So I see, guys, numbers are ticking up pretty quickly tonight. So this is great. Harsh, you got your water on board. All right, guys. So I have a very fun promo for Limb Loss Awareness Month, and I'll be talking a little bit about that a little later on in the show. We got Mark on board. Greetings from wet Deerfield. Oh, thank you, Marianne. Thank you very much. We got Van Gregory. Howdy from Texas. All right, guys, we got our full crew on board. Emily, thank you for joining in. Emily's been joining in the past couple of weeks, and I have enjoyed having her on the show. She's got her Ice Passion Tango tea from Starbucks. Sounds good. We got Steven in Jacksonville, the Cosi Palace. I like that. Drinking his water. We got Michael coming in from New York with his Diet Coke. Liz in Brooklyn drinking her water. And we got our other Susan. There we go. Trying here for a change. Okay, so let me know how you like the experience watching it on YouTube versus Facebook, Susan. We got Compadre on board. Thanks for joining in, man. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you joining me for the first time, welcome. My name is Cosi Belloso. I'm a physical therapist, amputee specialist here in Tampa, Florida. I've been a PT now for over 20 years. And we got a lot of fun questions to talk about tonight. And then we got, let's see. Oh, there's Johnny V from Poughkeepsie. There he is making his entrance right there. We got Brian. Brian, I'm so glad you found me. Oh, yes, that's going to be fun, Mark. So, yes, I would have been invited to speak at the Hanger Support Group on April 27th, I believe it is. So, those of you who are Hanger Clinic folks, make sure you check your emails because they'll give you the information on how you can connect with me on Zoom at the end of the month for Limb Loss Awareness Month. So, I'm really looking forward to that. Denise, North Carolina, got water. Denise, you were one of our winners from last week, and I tried sending you a Facebook message so that we could give you your prize. So, Denise, check your Facebook messages so that we can get your information and we can send you your prize from last week. Hey, Chuck, looking forward to tonight's show. Well, thank you for being here, Chuck. All right, guys, I sent out a text reminder this evening. So hopefully you should have received a text reminder that the show is going live along with links. For those of you who are new to my show, you can actually join the texting thread as well. I don't spam your phone. I just send out a reminder with links as to when I'm going live because I know it's a little easier to find me that way. All you have to do is text Cosi Talks, all caps, one word, just like I wrote it there, to that number, and you will start receiving my text messages. And the cool thing is you can also text me back. So some of you like to text me your questions that way. Thank you, Denise. Yes, please check your messages. And guys, again, for my newcomers, those of you who are watching me for the first time, this show is for you. I am here to answer your questions. And if I don't have an answer, I will go find an answer from the right people. So you can email me directly at my email that I just posted there, cosi@cositalks.com. I'm the one who answers all my emails, and I try to do so within 2 business days. So if you don't want to ask me your question here live, you can feel free to send it to me on my email. Sounds good. Yes, Scott, good to have you. Yes. So Emily, I know that I am being broadcast on Zoom with Hanger, and I think it's for several Hanger clinics. So Emily, if you're a part of that support group, you should be receiving an email about that. Stephen, you don't get the reminder anymore. Stephen, send me an email so I can look into that for you. Sounds good. Okay, Andrea, I'm glad you got the text. We got Pat on board. We got a full house, man. I'm not gonna be able to keep up with you guys tonight. We got Drew starting the Revo Fit build in May. Yes, he says, I learned a lot from the last show and I hope I found a knowledge new prosthetist. Good, Drew. I am so happy to hear that. So, guys, what Drew is talking about is the Revo Fit adjustable socket. And guys, they have been hot on my show the past year and a half for good reason. They are amazing at what they do. I love their adjustable system. No, it's not the only one out there, but it's the one that I prefer for my patients. And so many of you have had a lot of wonderful success with these adjustable sockets. So if you're interested in learning more, guys, go to my YouTube channel. You'll see the live shows that I've done, the adjustable sockets, and all the information there. Emily, if you can please send me an email and I will make sure to see that you can get an invite to that Zoom meeting where I will be speaking. I always love doing the Zoom meetings because then I get to see y'all face to face and I get to put names to faces. So I always like doing that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We've got a question here from Mike, and it says, a little backstory. I was injured on the job, lost both legs above the knees. One leg was lost about 2 years ago, and the other leg is more recent. My biggest struggle is with my sockets. I was extremely active before I was injured, and now between the rotating and pressure spots, it gets extremely frustrating. With being a comp case and sockets being a month old, I don't know if they'll change them. I was on stubbies for about a month and they moved me to Rio knees just today. Prosthetist mentioned about trying to get approval for suction sockets. So I guess they're trying to figure out what is best. I know everyone is different. I just want to get back to my activity level. So yes, guys. And I have a lot of newer amputees that have been joining the show lately looking for answers. And if there's one thing I can say about becoming an amputee, and I'm not an amputee myself, but it does take time. And I know it sounds like master of the obvious. But I think one of the biggest misconceptions that the general public has about amputees is that after limb loss, you just get your prosthesis and you put it on and you go about your life. And unfortunately, that's not how it works. When it comes to finding the right fit for the socket, when it comes to finding the right technology to use in your socket, what's going to work best for you, there is a lot of trial and error. Okay. And yes, unfortunately, sometimes the insurance companies can kind of get in the way and make things a little bit difficult. Now, when it comes to sockets, guys, and this is something you hear me advocating for a lot on the show, your sockets should be comfortable. There shouldn't be pain. There shouldn't be pressure spots. Okay. If you are experiencing this in your sockets, know that this is not normal and this is not acceptable. It's normal in the sense that it can happen, right? But it's not normal in the sense that you should just learn to live with it. Okay. This is where you really need to communicate with your prosthetist. And several times, many of you have to go back to the drawing board on many occasions, back and back and back, so that your prosthetist can keep adjusting the fit of your socket until they get it right. And guys, we're talking about even the most skilled of prosthetists. Okay. Every person's residual limb is shaped so uniquely and so differently, right? So nobody is the same. It's not just one size fit all. Okay. And some of you, especially those of you who are bilateral amputees, you're going to need a little bit more work, right? Because they're dealing with two residual limbs and the sockets are a little bit challenging sometimes. Okay. So my best recommendation is keep squeaking that wheel. Okay. Until you get a comfortable socket fit, keep going back to your prosthetist, keep asking them questions, keep communicating with them on that. All right. Emily says the outpatient rehab hospital that she goes to is trying to restart their amputee support group. Good. Guys, after COVID, I am so happy to see so many of these support groups going live again. Zoom support groups were great and it kept so many people connected, but I think there's no substitute for just seeing someone face to face and getting to know other people who are going through similar situation as yourself and being able to interact with them. All right, next one. This one came to me on a text message through the texting service. So I don't have a name on this person, but I'm going to hopefully they're listening and they can hear the answer to their question. So it says, hey, Cosi, I have a blade running leg, but my residual limb has shrunk considerably. I'm in the process of getting a new regular walking leg. Are there any foundations in Florida that can help with getting my blade refit? So a couple things here. When it comes to a blade running leg, okay, if your limb is shrinking, what usually needs to be changed is the socket. Typically, unless you lost a significant amount of weight or you gained a significant amount of weight, the blade stays the same, right? It's the socket that has to be changed when your residual limb is shrinking a lot, okay? And that's something that your prosthetist can do, okay? And again, this is something that sometimes insurance companies can be a little bit tricky on this, but if your prosthetist is writing a very good letter of medical necessity, they will replace the socket as the residual limb shrinks down. Okay. And again, yeah, this is where I kind of make another plug for adjustable socket technology like the Revo Fit here. I was actually talking to Kyle, right? So Kyle was on my show. Was it last week already? I think it was last week. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's been a week. Last week, Kyle was on my show, and he is a very elite level para triathlete, right? And he talks wonders about how he uses the Revo Fit because of the fact that when he's sweating so much and when he's on his runs, he doesn't have to take off his entire leg to adjust the fit of his socket. Okay, so for my runners, I'm starting to kind of talk to my runners. I have a couple of runners that I work with, and talk to them a little bit and just kind of examine to see, the adjustability on their socket. As far as foundations here in Florida, I've heard of the 50 Legs Foundation. I have not personally worked with them, so I don't know much about them other than their name. I know a couple of my patients have received their running blades from them. They're called the 50 Legs Foundation. The other one is the big one that I like to recommend is the Challenge Athletes Foundation, and they have given several of my viewers and patients blades throughout the years. Another organization I want to give a shout out to is the Amputee Blade Runners. They were actually on my show last year. Wonderful organization that they fit people for running sockets and blades. And guys, that is something that is just so, so key. Not a whole lot of prosthetists out there are experienced with fitting and aligning for running blades. Okay, so if you are someone who runs, someone who uses a running blade, really important to find a prosthetist that has that kind of experience, being able to align that properly. Okay, let's see. Steven says, I know about going to the prosthetist over and over to get it right. 5 years. Yeah. Yeah. And some of you might have tricky limbs. Sometimes your soft tissue might be in a different shape or in a different position, and it causes the fit to be a little bit more challenging. But I think even Steven can tell you that it's worth going back to the drawing board, and not giving up. Not giving up. Emily says, my prosthetist told me that insurance would only cover orthopedic shoes if I'm diabetic, which I am not. Would that be something my doctor could write a script for? I'm trying to learn to walk again and wore KFOs, and orthopedic shoes are sometimes the easiest shoes to fit in the KFOs. Yeah. Otherwise, shoe shopping is a nightmare. Yes. So what Emily is referring to with the KFOs, it's knee, ankle, foot orthosis. So it's a specialized brace that helps support and stabilize the knee and the ankle. And yes, with the orthopedic shoes, and again, guys, when it comes to insurance and Medicare, I am not the expert. Not. I can call myself kind of sort of an expert when it comes to amputee gait training, but when it comes to Medicare and insurance reimbursement, I am sorry to say I am not an expert. The tagline I tell folks is make sure you can justify medical necessity, right? Medical necessity. And this is something that your physical therapist, your prosthetist, and your doctor should all be writing in your record, especially if you find that you're getting turned down for certain equipment. Okay, so this should be a cohesive effort throughout the whole team. I know in physical therapy school, they drilled us on the appropriate vocabulary to use when we are writing for medical necessity for further physical therapy treatment. And yes, sometimes that included equipment as well. So, Emily, if you haven't already been denied for the orthopedic shoes, then yes, definitely ask your doctor to write that script. Ask them to write that letter of medical necessity. Your physical therapist, Emily. That's another person that you can pull in to do this for you. And again, we're used to writing a lot of those kind of letters, right? So it wouldn't surprise me if your physical therapist has already had to write a letter like this for one of their patients. Okay. And then, guys, I do want to give a shout out. Julie Conley. She's a wonderful, amazing resource that I've used so many times over the years. She is the expert on getting equipment reimbursed through insurance companies. So if there's any of you out there who have a particularly challenging case in getting reimbursement for something, send me an email and I'd be happy to connect you with Julie. Yes, isn't Kyle amazing, Jerry? Oh my gosh, he is just a ball of energy and joy, and he is competing, and I am so excited that he was on the show and excited to see where he goes. There we go, Marianne, you're connecting with Liz and Linda. Um, So Brian says, you saw my issue and I need to look into adjustable Revo. Relocating to Florida has made it needed with limb sweat and shrinking. Yeah. And guys, I am located in hot, sticky, sweaty Tampa, Florida, and it's only April 12th, and we are in the 90s every day already. So sweat is a way of life here year round, which is probably why I know so much about adjustable socket technology, because even just walking around, the amount of sweat that happens for a lot of my patients here in Florida is incredible. So a lot of volume is lost here on a regular daily basis for patients and those folks wearing prosthetic devices. So, yeah. So between adjustable socket technology and skincare and hygiene, I got you covered. Um, Emily asks, oh, that's a good question, Emily. Have you ever had an amputee tell you having the amputation was the best decision they made? I'm a new amputee, and that statement is still hard for my brain to understand. Yes, Emily, all the time, all the time. Um, where I feel I hear this the most is, and I've had several patients that experienced severe childhood trauma. I actually have had three patients that, when they were around 3 to 4 years of age, they were run over by a lawnmower. It was awful. And their leg, was mangled. There's just no other way to say it. And they had to go through several surgeries throughout their lifetime to attempt to save the leg, to attempt to stabilize the leg. And it wasn't until they reached adulthood that they finally made the decision to amputate. And all three of those cases, they said it was the best decision they ever made. Another case where I hear this often is also, again, childhood sarcoma survivors, that they were able to do limb salvage surgery, but unfortunately, the limb was not very functional. Right, they were in a lot of pain. Kyle was actually one of those folks right there, Emily. Kyle, the young man who was on my show last week, and he said, it just being in that pain for so many years, right, and not being able to do the activities that a young man should be able to do, or a young woman should be able to do. So to finally get to that point where they were ready just to make that decision. But Emily, yes, I do have the other end of the spectrum there. Um, you know, I always say losing a limb, trauma's like losing a limb, having cancer. Um, these are not normal things, right? These are not normal events. Um, and I speak from personal experience. I'm a breast cancer survivor myself. When someone tells you that you have cancer, when someone tells you that you have to remove a body part, a limb from your body, right? That changes you forever. And anybody who says otherwise, they're not being realistic, right? That changes you forever. That changes how you look at yourself physically. It changes how you view yourself mentally, right? It's not something normal to happen to the human body, right? And our minds, it's not easy to accept and to cope with that. And in those cases, Emily, this is where I really stress the importance of having that support, having the family support, having your community support, having mental health support. So, whether that comes in the form of a support group or counseling or an amazing social worker or a psychologist or even a member of the clergy, someone that can help you with coping mechanisms and strategies as you're processing this trauma and this grief. And to me, healing is a lifelong process. I'm almost 7 years in remission from cancer, but guys, it's still something that I am healing from and something that I will continue to heal from my entire life. And Emily, I can tell you again, this is just me as a personal experience. There have been many positive things that came as the result of my having cancer. This show, for example, my practice. Um, Everything that I do in the amputee community is a direct result from being a cancer patient. And those of you who've heard my story, you know about that. But am I able to say I'm glad I got cancer? No. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. So I don't know if that makes sense to you, and I hope that helps just a little bit. But it's okay to not be okay from this trauma, and I'm glad that you are looking into the support groups in your area. And I think getting to talk to other people who have been in similar situations as yourself, and hearing folks who are um, at peace with their amputation, hearing folks that have not regretted their decision, and then hearing folks that, yeah, that are still struggling, I think it's important to hear both sides. Let's see, and I see a lot of you guys chiming in. So let me see what you guys have to say. Thomas says, "Best decision I ever made." Brian says, "I agree. My new life was created." Let's see. Parents, yes, Thomas, absolutely. As far as a support, Jim Wilkes says it was the best decision for amputation. Mark says I'm a better person for it. Jim says 15 surgeries to get there. Scott says best decision I made. Too many infections, so it was time for me. I was in the hospital more than out for 3 years prior to my amputation. Charlie says I was ran over by a crane. 18 years of failed surgery. Best decision. Mark says at least we don't look like Bob. So, guys, those of you who are new to my show, this is Bob. Bob is my somewhat reluctant model. And he's kind of been through the gauntlet, with 4 kids hanging around. Bob sure gets a workout sometimes. All right. Um, so Jim says we are working on all states for insurance fairness. Yes, thank you, Jim. Tom says it wasn't my decision, but my amputation was the best thing that ever happened to me, and I'm a better person for it. Um, Oh, thank you, Brian. He says, "We make all the important points and God bless us all for it." Yep. Emily says, "I had osteomyelitis, which led to my amputation because there was the fear of sepsis. That was the reason I agreed to the amputation. I didn't want to go septic and possibly die. In that way, I don't regret the amputation. I just regret that it got to the point where amputation was necessary." Yeah. Yeah. Susan says, "I will never think that losing my leg was a good thing." Stephen says, "I'm not okay because it wasn't my fault that my leg was amputated. I was hit by a motorcycle by an intoxicated teen." And Marianne says, "It was my legs or my life. So it was good for me." Jerry says, "I had gangrene. I had no choice other than to suffer with pain. So, yes, I'm glad I had a choice to amputating both legs. I haven't walked yet, so time will tell." So, I mean, Emily, you can see you have everything just in this short little chat section right here. So, everything from folks who are uh, struggling and have do not say that it's the best thing that ever happened to them, and the people who say that yes, it did change them for the better, and everything in between. So, everyone's work in progress, work in progress. Let's go to this next question. Oh, this was a good one. So Scott asks, he says, "Quick question, long answer." He already knows me, right? It says, "What is the typical progression an above the knee leg amputee makes from surgery to normal walking pace, beginning and ending socket types?" That's a lot of question right there, Scott. So I'll try to be short and sweet so I don't put you all to sleep on this one. The typical progression for an above the knee amputee, starting with surgery is obviously the healing process, right? So that residual limb has to do a lot of healing. Typically around the 6-week mark after surgery. For the most part, if there haven't been any complications with infection or wound problems or anything like that, usually the wound is healed enough where a surgeon can clear a patient to start getting fitted for their first prosthesis, right? And because of the fact that the residual limb is still going to be very puffy, very inflamed and swollen, right? That first prosthesis is the check socket. So it's just a test socket, just to kind of get a general shaping of the prosthesis. In the meantime, in those first 6 weeks, a person should be receiving physical therapy from day one. I used to joke around that I was the unfortunate face that my patients would see as they're opening their eyes from the OR. It's like, "Hi, physical therapist, time to get started." So those first 6 weeks should be focused on gaining mobility, gaining strength, assisting with pain management and swelling management. Okay, sometimes you might be issued a shrinker depending on your surgeon as to when they want to give that to you. Okay. And then after that, Scott, that's where the physical therapy really should be kicking up a notch. Once your prosthetist has fit you for that first socket, that first leg, right? That's where the physical therapy really takes off. And if you are fortunate enough to have a prosthetist who's working with the physical therapist, this is where you're going to have the best outcomes. Okay. And sometimes when you have this kind of scenario, a prosthetist might put you into a very basic setup. Okay. It may not be necessarily the fanciest knee or the fanciest foot or the fanciest socket and suspension system, because they may just want to see, okay, how is your limb going to react? How much are you going to start shrinking? Because the more you start working, the more you start walking on it, the more you're going to shrink. And that socket is going to need to undergo a lot of changes, right? And it could be that the initial knee that you work with is not necessarily the knee that you're going to end up with. It could be that you are progressing a lot faster than anticipated and you might need a higher tech knee, or the opposite, that you need a little bit more time. So you need a knee that's a little bit more stable, and a foot as well. Okay. See, David says, I fought for years to avoid the inevitable. I had become so comfortable with the pain, I didn't realize how very sick I was, and my life was in danger. My surgeon who did my amputation told me how sick I was, and the leg had to come off. Schedule my surgery immediately, and best decision I ever made. Jim says, Scott, never give up. Wear a shrinker. Yeah. Brian says, I remember the PT 2 hours after surgery. Man, that's a really gung-ho PT right there. All right, guys, I'm going to pause for a moment and I am going to make the announcement for Limb Loss Awareness Month. So hang on, let me type some stuff real quick because y'all are going to want to click on this. So many of you know, hopefully by now, that I have an entire exercise program. So it's called Cosi Talks Strong Body. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for a moment so that you can see what it is. Here we go. All right, guys. So here is my Cosi Talks Strong Body program. Okay. So when you sign up, you will have access to over 150 exercise videos for above the knee and below the knee. Okay. And as you guys know, I love my education. So I have lots of videos here explaining how you can start strengthening your arms, legs, core, balance, and flexibility. How can you progress yourself when you're doing these exercises? And then if you want to get access to the exercises, there are several different ways. You have a fully linked table of contents, so you can access the exercises that way. You can do the handy dandy drop down menu, which is my personal favorite way. Okay, so you can see there's lots of exercises. I include lots of exercises with the prosthesis and without the prosthesis, right? So you can see here, I'm teaching Robin here in this one how to do the basic bridges without a prosthesis. Okay. And then later on in another page, you can see the one with the prosthesis. So for me, it's kind of important to include both. Same thing here. Oops. With my below the knee folks, we've got basic bridges with prosthesis, basic bridges without the prosthesis, right? So lots of different options here. And each of these videos, guys, I do a lot of information, a lot of education. Okay. So that's the actual video program. With the video program, I have 2 books, an above the knee book and a below the knee book. And in this book, you have all the same exercises. Okay. So for every video exercise that's in that program, there is a corresponding book entry. And I did that on purpose, guys. A lot of my patients I've learned over the years, they learn a little bit differently. Some folks, they need to see that video and hear it. Some folks need to see it in print. If you're like me, you need both. Okay. So I am running a special for April, just for April, Limb Loss Awareness Month. Okay. The entire program, the video exercises, okay, it used to be $13 a month. Now it's down to $5 a month. Yeah. So I'm going to show you guys because I want you guys to take a look at this. Okay. All right. I'm going to log myself out. So for those of you who are interested in signing up, you go to the main page, you scroll all the way down. Okay. So for $5 a month right here, you can sign up and have access to the entire video exercise program. Okay. If you buy the program and the book at the same time, you'll get $20 off because the book is $60. The annual plan is $60, right? So $120, but you're going to get it for $99.95. So $20 savings right there. All right, guys, that is a really good deal. And you guys know I've had this program now. I launched this program 2 years ago. I've never done a special. Okay. So those of you that have been curious about this special, now is your chance. Now is your chance to jump on board with the special. So if you get the video exercises and the book, you get a $20 discount. That's a pretty good deal. And if you just want to get the video exercises by themselves, $5 a month. How much do you guys typically have to pay for a gym membership? Yeah. And all these exercises, guys, you can do them from home. Everything. And in fact, all those exercises were filmed in my neighborhood. So we were using all the equipment that I have sitting in my garage. That's it. That's it. All right. Drew, I want you to email me. Send me an email, Drew. Okay. So I'm going to put my email down real quick. Send me an email. All right. The Bustelo special. That's right. That's right. And you're going to need Bustelo so you can power through these exercises. And guys, with these exercises, I have them organized in phases 1, 2, and 3. So phase 1 is for my beginners. These are the folks that are just out of surgery. These are the exercises that I give my patients as they're coming out of the OR. And then phase 3 exercises are for my higher athletes. Okay. So I use these. You guys have seen Jessica and Damon on my show. And they do these exercises when we do our running drills and things like that. Okay. And then everything in between. And the cool thing is, I think it's cool. If you are stronger in your arms than your legs, then you can use a phase 2 arms exercise, phase 1 leg exercises. Okay. So you can kind of mix and match the different body parts and put together a program for yourself. All right. Let's see. So that's the special. Ta-da. Oh, Jerry, thank you so much. We will be getting that book. Actually, I'm doing my mail out. Today's Wednesday. I'll be doing my mail outs on Friday, Jerry, for all my orders for the week. So you'll be getting it very soon. So Denise says to Emily, I had an infection and sepsis, so the decision was the easiest I ever made, since it was lose my foot and part of my leg or lose my life. But it's been the most difficult thing I've ever done. But I have an amazing support system, family, friends, and church. When I was in my way to the hospital, God told me I would be fine and he would be with me. And that has been so true. Not only my support team, but he has placed people on my path that I swear are such good fits for me. It could only be him. My prosthetist, chiropractor, primary care physician, and finding this show are all part of my team. So I'm at peace with the amputation and was from the beginning. My life was spared and I have a life to live. My husband, my husband and I am almost 5 years in. Hang in there and don't give up. There is life after amputation. Blessings to you. Thank you, Denise, for writing that. Marianne says, I've never had shrinkers for my AKs. And guys, some people don't need shrinkers. Usually in the beginning, yes, I recommend shrinkers for everybody because everyone's going to have swelling that first up to a year, year and a half after the amputation. Some people, not too many, some people are just fortunate that they stay kind of stable after a year and a half and they may not necessarily need the shrinkers. Other folks, they need to continue wearing their shrinkers at night so that they can fit into their socket in the morning. And sometimes it's just a little bit more comfortable for them to wear it at night. Let's see. I had 3 blood transfusions before my amputation because my hemoglobin was at 5. Holy smokes, that's low. I drove myself to the ER and knowing just how sick I was. Yeah, that's sick. That is. Let's see. Here we go. Let me scroll down, make sure I got these. Jerry asked, can you do all of your video exercises at home or do you need any equipment? Jerry, send me an email. Send me an email and I'll see if I can help you out there somehow. So send me an email. Yes, you can do all of the exercises at home. And if I remember correctly, the equipment that you would need is like a tennis ball. I'm kind of flipping through the book here to kind of jog my memory. You need a tennis ball. You might need like a towel roll or a little step, those like little steps that they use for toddlers so that the toddlers can reach, a countertop. So I use just a simple step that you can get at the dollar store. That's pretty much about it, guys. I like to keep it simple in case you haven't noticed. I like to keep it really simple. If you get into some of the more advanced exercises, so for example, in this one right here, we're using an exercise ball But I think that's literally the most expensive piece of equipment that I have, that I use in this program. Things that you can easily find on Amazon, things that are not expensive to buy. Guys, on a personal level, I don't have a gym membership. I actually don't like going to the gym. It's just not my particular thing. I like working out from my garage and I like running on my own. So I use all these exercises for my own running program and strengthening program. Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. And guys, these are exercises that are tried and true, and they are challenging. They are challenging. All right, let's see. Drew says, my new prosthetist recommended an ACE wrap instead of a shrinker. Is there a good video on how to do the ACE wrap compression? He said it was an old school method of doing it. Yes, Drew. And there is a very particular way on how it needs to be done. It's a special figure eight wrapping. And Drew, I'm kind of chuckling because I see my folder over there from PT school. That's how long I've been doing this, right? Because back when I started doing this, we didn't have shrinkers. We had to do the ACE wrap. That's how we did it. And I still have the old picture of how to do the ACE wrap. But Drew, if you can send me a nudge on email and just say, Cosi, you're supposed to find me how to do the ACE wrap compression. And I'll try to find you a video that shows how to do that. I just need to make a video. Honestly, it'd be a lot easier for me just to make the video. Okay. So let me see. I've got, I think, one more question here to cover. Okay, here's a good one. So this is one I kind of picked up on one of the support groups, and this is something that I'm like, okay, this situation, I don't think I've addressed this situation before, but I'm like, I know it's happened. This individual says, my sister, who is mentally challenged, is going to have her leg amputated. She lives with me. She is a very large woman. I have no idea what the healing process consists of. Will she go to rehab after surgery? Does anyone teach us how to take care of her? So, there's several caregivers who watch this show, and oftentimes they have a lot of questions because they are learning how to care for their loved one, and there's no manual for that, right? There's no manual for that, but there is support, guys. And yes, especially someone who has a mental disability and also a physical disability, you definitely want to have the support of the full team to not only help the patient, but to help the family members that are caring for that person. So the number one thing is ask for inpatient rehab consult. Ask for that inpatient rehab consult. So even if this particular individual is a very active person, because of the mental disability, you don't know what obstacles they might present with after the amputation. Okay. So it's always better just to kind of prepare for an inpatient rehab stay and perhaps not need to use it than to need it and not have it available. Okay. And that's something, guys, that you can ask ahead of time. You can ask your surgeon, hey, what's the scoop with inpatient rehab? Who are you contracted with and who do you send your patients to? Is it in the same hospital where you have the surgery, or is it a separate rehab setting? And how soon can we get a consult for that? Okay. And this is something that the surgeon will typically punt over to their nurse practitioner, to their case manager, or to their social worker that works on their team to help get this consult going. So for me, inpatient rehab is the best place to be when you have a situation like this. They would be receiving physical therapy and occupational therapy services 3 hours a day. Okay. And then again, you have the support system of the social worker, the case manager, everyone on board to make sure that this individual receives what they need to go home and also to teach the caregiver. A lot of people don't realize that, but when you're in inpatient rehab, part of the job of the PT and the OT is to educate the family members. That's part of what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to coordinate with the family members to have them sit in on therapy sessions if that is the anticipated discharge planning right there. Okay. All right, I think we go there. And then again, for someone, especially if this particular person is a very large individual, they might need certain bariatric equipment. So if they need a toilet commode that's meant for a bariatric patient or a shower chair that's meant for a bariatric patient, sometimes they might need a special order of those items. So again, this is where social worker is so important, case manager is so important, nurse practitioners that are usually the right hand man or woman to the surgeon. Um, Jerry says, I agree. I don't like the gym either. I'm very disciplined on working out and I have a lot of home equipment since my amputations. And guys, don't get me wrong. I have nothing against the gym. And if you like going to the gym and that's what gets you up and moving, then by all means, go to the gym. It's just me personally. It's easier for me just to hang out in my garage and scare my neighbors with my workouts. Emily says inpatient rehab was hard, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week for 2 weeks, but it helps a lot. It is. It's hard. I worked inpatient rehab on several occasions, and man, we work our patients really well. Um, Drew says, my issue, the shrinker not working well with maintaining volume, need to try to stabilize the volume. And again, those of you who, let's just going back to the just stabilizing limb volume. Ooh, my leg fell asleep. Um, for stabilizing limb volume, take a look at what's going on in your life. Do you have any other underlying medical issues that could be contributing to this, right? Those of you who are diabetic, those of you who have high blood pressure, some of you may have an autoimmune disease. Okay. All these things that could be contributing to the changes in volume in your residual limb. Okay. And prior to your amputation, that may not have been such a big deal. You may have just noticed, okay, maybe my wedding ring fits a little tighter. But after amputation, you're going to notice those volume changes in your body that you perhaps didn't notice before. Okay. So it warrants taking a look at your medications. Is your sugar stable? Is your blood pressure stable? What is your diet looking like? Are you pounding the salty potato chips at night, which means in the morning, you're going to have a tougher time getting into your socket? Okay. All of these things that need to be addressed and maintained. And it makes your life a whole lot easier when it comes to that limb volume. Okay. Also, the other thing, especially for my Floridians, hydration. A lot of people think that if they're having, if their limb is swelling and they're retaining water, that they need to cut on their hydration. And it's actually the opposite is true. If you find that you're kind of a little bit swollen in your limb, okay, chances are you probably need to drink and pound some of that water down and get some of that hydration going. Drew says, I got high blood pressure dealing with all the doctors and insurance companies. Yeah, if there's anything that's going to drive your blood pressure up, it's dealing with those insurance companies. That's for sure. That's for sure. All right, guys. Whew, it's been a good talk tonight. So, guys, next week, okay, next week, I've got Ronnie Dixon coming back into the studio. And if y'all haven't heard of Ronnie Dixon, y'all need to go to my YouTube channel and check him out. He's amazing. He's a prosthetist over in Tennessee. He's an above the knee amputee himself, world-class rock climber, amazing human being, wealth of knowledge. And we are going to be talking about alignment next week. I've never done a show on alignment. Okay. And I'm actually kind of a little nervous about it because, it's kind of like one of those like weak points. Every clinician has their kind of weak point. And for me, it's sometimes the alignment. So I'm purposely bringing Ronnie on board so that we can talk about alignment and answer your questions as to what alignment is and the questions that you need to be asking your prosthetist about that. So, guys, set your alarms on your phone, and for next week at Wednesday 8:30. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just making sure I get this last. Oh, well, Van Gregory, there you go. So Van Gregory says, I received my new liners with test sockets a week ago. Notice I'm really tired at night after wearing test sockets all day because I feel like I'm being pushed backwards and constantly leaning forward to keep upright. And I think it's an alignment issue. And I think you're absolutely right, Van Gregory. And that's wearing me out. I go to see my prosthetist tomorrow and we'll mention it. Ding, 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 ding. Right on the head there, Ben Gregory. Absolutely right. Yes, that is an alignment issue. So definitely let your prosthetist know about that. And guys, whenever you get new sockets, new equipment, new componentry, it requires tweaking, right? So those of you, especially who have been wearing prosthetic legs for a while, you know what it's supposed to feel like. And more importantly, you know what it's not supposed to feel like. So if it's not feeling right, give that prosthetist a call and they should be able to make those adjustments for you. Yes, Ronnie is amazing. Um, all right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I've had a very long day and I've enjoyed tonight so much. As always, guys, thank you for letting me be a part of your lives this evening. Go check out the Strong Body Program promo. I want to see lots of signups. I want to see you guys using these exercise videos. I made them for you. So with that being said, I will see you guys same bat time, same bat channel next week.